Hey everybody, so I'm just gonna do like this little update video, like a get ready with me, but it's not really a get ready with me because it's really late at night. But I will be playing with some makeup, or at least eye makeup. So I'm gonna be using the Morphe Jeffree Star collaboration palette because I haven't played with it really a whole lot and haven't played with it since I really got it. So why not now? And I'm also gonna just be updating about like what's been going on lately. So I don't know, this is kind of awkward and whatnot already for me, but I want to make a video, so here I am making a video. So for starters, I've already put on this Too Faced Dazzle Gloss in Hustlin', just so I have something on my lips. Just need a little pop of gloss, and so that's what we got going on right there. So today I got Tuki beside me. She's already playing with my lip gloss that I just threw down. So today is Mother's Day, or earlier today was Mother's Day, maybe midnight by the time I'm recording this, I don't even know. But for those who celebrated Mother's Day, I hope you had a good Mother's Day. I personally do not celebrate Mother's Day anymore. It's really a hard holiday for me, having lost my mom 8 years ago, and just the other day was her birthday too, which was on Cinco de Mayo. So that was another one where I was just kind of like, not too keen on, you know, getting involved with festivities. Not like you really could right now, but with everything going on in the world. So yeah, let me go ahead and get started. I don't know if I've ever been able to like thoroughly hold a conversation while applying makeup, but hey. So this is gonna be kind of hard to show because I don't want to flash the mirror, but I'm just gonna start out with this shade right here in the crease area. So yeah, that might be a little, I'm not entirely sure what I'm gonna do, but I think I'm gonna use like these green shades right here, or some of this. I will definitely this one, but I don't know if I want to use other green shades or not, but I want to use like this silver right here too. So that's the game plan for now. And I got cat hair on my face from the cats. Yeah, so like I was saying, I'm not too keen on celebrating Mother's Day myself, but again, for those who celebrate, I hope you had a good celebration, especially given the circumstances with social distancing. Yeah, so there we are with that. And also yesterday the music world lost like a legend. Little Richard passed away yesterday. Ooh, that's a lot more pigmented than I was expecting for the moment. I don't know. Oh, by the way, I have like eyeshadow base on, just the e.l.f. eyeshadow base. Did my little eyebrows up, and so yeah, that's what we're working with at the moment. But yeah, we lost Little Richard yesterday, which I love Little Richard. He, well, again, a legend, rock and roll legend. Hello. But one thing, so how do I want to talk about this? So I'll say that he had quite a few ties with here in Middle Tennessee. He lived in Lynchburg, Tennessee, which is famous for being the home of Jack Daniels. I can't even talk. We're already at that point where I can't even talk. But that was his home, or where he lived, his area that he lived. But according to the news, like when they were talking about, you know, him passing away, they said that he had a house downtown that like overlooked downtown, and that he lived with his brother. So I don't know what the details are with that, but he was very, how do I want to phrase this? I was going to say he's very well known, which he is very well known, but I mean, people of Lynchburg and surrounding areas, like, they all seem to have stories about meeting him and seeing him out in public. There's another small town area kind of down south of here. I guess it's south east of here, Tullahoma, where a lot of people saw him out and about on a regular basis. So it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I can go in a million directions right now, but growing up, my mom always told me about how when I don't even know how old she was, and I still don't fully know the details, and I should, because I did extra credit project on this for one of my I think it was my American Popular Music class at MTSU that I did extra credit project on this, or a paper about it. But so the story goes, okay, so she's from a little small town that's about 70 miles south of Nashville called Fayetteville. So Little Richard's manager, I believe, Little Richard's from Macon, Georgia. He's from somewhere in Georgia, and I think it's Macon, Georgia. So back in the day, I guess this was either late 50s, early 60s, maybe even mid 60s, somewhere, we'll just say mid 50s to potentially even, okay, late 60s. Just somewhere in that time frame. And again, I should know this. I wish I could. I don't even know if I have the paper. I wonder if I gosh, I'm thinking maybe I might have the paper saved on my computer, because that would be the desk. I don't know. I need to remember to check on that, my desktop, my old desktop, just to see. But anyway, so let me get on with the actual story here. So anyway, his manager was from her hometown. My grandfather had a grocery store. He ran a grocery store, old family grocery store business, passed on down generations. So he was the last of his generation, or the last generation of his family to run the grocery store. Anyway, it was a well-known, you know, one of several grocery stores down there, but like everybody in that town knows everybody anyway. So he had a grocery store. So Little Richard's manager would come through and bring Little Richard to the town all the time, because then, you know, just passing through, like, hey, we're coming through, like, let's just stop. And there's also some like nightclub down there, a music club down there, which a lot of legends played. Like, I know Chuck Berry was one of them, and there's a whole list. I was looking on her Facebook, not her Facebook, my mom never had Facebook. I was looking on my Facebook. There's a group for her hometown, and they were sharing their memories about Little Richard. But yeah, they were bringing up the club. Anyway, so yeah, so his manager brought Little Richard into my grandfather's grocery store. I don't know if it was a regular, like every time they were in town they would stop into the store, or if it was just like one time only. And I'm not sure if my mom was there. I don't remember if my mom said that she was there at the time. But anyway, and he was a sight. I mean, this is a small conservative town, and you have Little Richard coming in dressed up, wearing makeup, dressed all flamboyantly. I mean, that wasn't really a sight that you saw on a regular basis. I think even today, I'm not sure, but from what I've gathered, from what I've read from relatives and friends who live down there, it's still kind of like, not really a super conservative town, but I mean, like, I think if you have colorful hair, you definitely stand out down there. But anywho, yeah, so that being said, like my whole life I've kind of like grown up like I mean, who doesn't love Tutti Frutti? I mean, is there anybody who doesn't really love Tutti Frutti? Like, I feel like everybody loves that song regardless of how they feel about music. Like, I haven't met anybody who doesn't love or enjoy the song Tutti Frutti. So, yeah, so growing up, I just kind of always had like, I just gravitated to Little Richard. Like, I love his music, and his character, like the whole persona he had. And he has a quote, or he had a quote that I absolutely love, that I said for years, and I think I was saying it for years. Oh my gosh, I'm a mess. And I need to just, sorry, this is bad. This is gonna be, we're already getting close to 10 minutes here, sorry. So, the quote was something like, it was, the grass may be greener on the other side, but it's just as hard to cut. Like, I feel like that's the way he said it on a TV show that I was watching one time. But then, like, looking it up on Google, it says something like, the grass may be greener on the other side, then it was like something, but you know it's just as hard to cut or something. Anyway, love the quote regardless. So let me move on to another color here. I'm not really even accomplishing anything. I'm gonna move on to this bright grassy green. So my mom had this special friend that she spent a lot of time with, and we're not going to go into details about that, but anyway, the special friend was from her hometown, supposedly, and the special friend would go out to, like, everybody from my mom's hometown would go out to, like, Tullahoma. Like, that's one of the big areas. That and Huntsville, Alabama are, like, two of the areas you go to shop, like, to do all your big shopping. Like, they have, you know, they have, like, well, of course they have Walmarts and, you know, smaller places, Dollar General, stuff like that. And I think they've gained a lot more businesses, but, I mean, like, they don't have a Kroger's down there. So if you want to go to a Kroger, I guess a lot of people down there go to Tullahoma to shop at Kroger. So, and it's funny because they have a lot of fast food places in Fayetteville, but anyway, her special friend would see Little Richard on occasion riding in his Escalade, I guess shotgun in his Escalade, going to the KFC in Tullahoma. And I found out that that wasn't, like, there's a lot of people who can share that same story. And also, a lot of people would run into him, according to the town Facebook group, a lot of people would run into him at the Kroger in Tullahoma as well. So, he lived in Lynchburg, did a lot of his shopping and whatnot in Tullahoma, along with the people of Fayetteville. So, anywho, now we're actually, like, tying up this story. So, my mom was telling me, like, she would always talk about, like, oh, I gotta take you down to Lynchburg sometime, and maybe we'll run into Little Richard. So, right before she got sick, like, relapsed, was diagnosed, with the stage 4 cancer, right before that, she had made plans, or she said, hey, you know, maybe, like, she'd been really, like, sick, and they didn't, at the time, they didn't detect anything. It was actually on her birthday that she went to, like, her annual checkup to, like, make sure that everything was going well with, like, the cancer not coming back. And even though she was feeling really bad, they didn't seem concerned about that. No, why would they be concerned about it? And then it got so bad that that's when they found out that she had a brain tumor that was making her sick, and she had to have emergency brain surgery. And okay, I'm not going to go into that sad sob story, but anywho, but right before, like, during that time that she's kind of nauseous, and it was, like, right after her birthday, I guess it was kind of like this time 8 years ago, she was talking about, like, hey, when I start to feel better, we should really go down to Lynchburg, like, actually go down there and, you know, spend the day in Lynchburg. I mean, it's a little tiny town. Like, again, like I said, basically Jack Daniels is down there. You can go tour the distillery, but I mean, that wasn't going to be our plan, but it was a little, like, they have a little square with, like, little restaurants and little shops. And I just spit. Anywho, so that was going to be our day, and, like, kind of, it was, like, joking, but kind of half serious, like, hey, maybe we'll run into Little Richard, like, and I don't know, it was just, like, a thing, and that was something that I was like, oh, cool, like, finally. Yeah, so, never got to do that, and definitely will never get to run into Little Richard. But, last year, we actually, my dad and I, went to a family reunion. It was her side of the family. One of her cousins has a lake house down there in Lynchburg, so I finally got to go to Lynchburg and to family reunion. And her cousin who lives down there was talking about how, like, maybe she was in a Kroger parking lot too. I forgot where she said she was, or it was, like, fast. It's either Kroger or KFC, because that's, like, the two, like, where did Little Richard been? Either Kroger or KFC. Like, he likes his Kroger, he likes his chicken. Like, I mean, the man had taste. Well, I mean, Kroger's just a grocery store, but anywho. So, she actually saw him in the parking lot, and she made a comment. She complimented him, like, something about, it was either his lashes or his eyeliner. She said something, which is so appropriate for right now, I guess, kind of, sort of. Anyway, she made a comment about, like, how he had good lashes, or you got better lashes than me, or better, your eyeliner's better than mine, or something like that. Anyway, it's like, really. She's like, yep, that's what I told him. Like, my family. Anywho, so that's a one of those little stories, but yeah, so I guess it's time to transition on to another story, and that's what else has been going on lately around here. So let's talk about it. So again, today is Sunday, or was Sunday at the beginning of me recording this video, or starting to record this video. Just wiping off my brush right now, which, by the way, I use these microfiber cloths to wipe off my brushes when I change colors. So easy, so convenient, works like a charm. I think I'm gonna go in with the silver now, and I'm just using the same old brush, which is just one of these $1 e.l.f. blending brushes. I always like these just strictly for blending, but lately I've just been using this for everything eye related, except for the eyebrows, which I use the little angled eyeliner brush for the eyebrows. So anyway, I'm gonna go on with silver right here and see if I can lay that down. I may need a base for that. If I need a base, then I'm just gonna be like, forget it. So coughing. So last Sunday, about 4:40 something in the afternoon, my dad and I were sitting out on the porch, and we knew that there's gonna be a thunderstorm coming through. So we were just kind of like waiting for it. Like, we were just kind of watching it roll in. And then it started at thundering and at storming, and oh, I shouldn't have put that too far over. I put it way too far. Well, okay, we're already dedicated to doing this, so we're just gonna go over the green with this, just cause. It's totally Slytherin colors too, green and silver. Harry Potter fans, you know what I'm talking about. So we were watching the storm roll in, and it started just downpouring, you know, nothing out of the ordinary. And so we're like, oh, time to go in. And coming inside, like, I'd already walked in the door, and he was behind me getting ready to close the door, and I just noticed, like, the swing. I'd been on the swing, he'd been in a rocking chair, and all of a sudden the swing went, like, you know, swings like right here, and all of a sudden it went like whoop, like, and just completely back. I've never seen the wind pick the swing up that high and far back before. Like, it just went like as far as it could go back. I was like, holy snot, I've never seen. And like, my dad had the, like, we have a glass door, and he was like trying to pull the door, and he's like, I can't. He was like fighting the door to pull it closed. And it's like, man, like, that was insane. And then so I went to the back door and looked out the window, and as I'm looking out the window, I see these big old, well, not big old, but these pretty sizable branches just flying over my car and over the house. I'm like, holy snot. And then all of a sudden all these other limbs just flying, chunks of like leaves, clusters of leaves just flying up over the house and over the trees. I was like, oh my word, what the heck is this? You can just hear the wind and just like kind of shaking the house. I was like, what the heck? And then like moments later, electricity went out. I'm like, oh, it must have blown a generator or whatever. So, you know, nothing too out of the ordinary, but, you know, nothing you really want to like have happen. So they're like, well, I guess we won't have electricity for a few hours, because that's the case. If it doesn't come back on within a few minutes, then you can pretty much bet that it's going to be out for like 2 or 3 hours. So 2 or 3 hours goes by. You know, yeah, 2 hours would have gone by because it was almost 7 o'clock at this point. So things had calmed down outside around 7 o'clock, and what was going on? Oh, I was just kind of like, what? I forgot there's some, it was either because of the radio or because I needed to charge my phone. It might have been because I needed to charge my phone at that point. But anyway, I was like, okay, I'm going to go out to the car because we don't have electricity. I must have been charging my phone. And I was having a hard time connecting, like, to my date. Like, you know how when you're, like, okay. So at home, I have my phone set to where it just automatically hooks up to the home Wi-Fi. That way I don't have to worry about data. You know, my data is preserved. Not like I ever use my data that much anyway. I don't go out much, especially now. I don't go out hardly anywhere to use the data. But yeah, so of course electricity is out, Wi-Fi is out. Like our Wi-Fi phone, everything runs off a router that's plugged into the outlet. We don't have a backup battery thing for it. Like, I think you can buy one, but anyway, we, like, without electricity, we don't have any of that. So I'm like, well, my phone, usually I can connect to the internet through my data plan. Like, no biggie. That, I mean, I pay for it. It's there. It usually works. I mean, why wouldn't it work? It wouldn't work. I could not get any, like, updates going on with the internet, and I think that's why, like, my phone was already, like, draining down, because it wasn't, like, it was just, I was struggling. I was like, I'm not getting anything. What's going on here? So anyway, I noticed, like, I go outside, the sky has that weird yellow cast to it, like after a tornado. Like, that's what happens after a tornado. You got this weird, like, sepia cast. But usually the sepia cast is kind of, is that how you say it? That yellow cast, sepia, or is it sepia? Anyway, however it's pronounced, you know, yellow cast looks old-fashioned. Usually after a tornado, everything, like, even, like, right in front of you looks like that. But this is more so in the sky, but some, like, I even made a comment to my dad, like, you know, we may, like, did we have a tornado? Maybe we had a tornado. Like, the tornado sirens didn't go off, but maybe, like, there's some reason they didn't go off. Like, maybe we did have a tornado and the sirens didn't go off because either they didn't detect it, like, maybe it just kind of came out of nowhere. Like, is that even possible? Or maybe they had, like, some malfunction. So anyway, out in the car, charging up my phone, have the battery, or the radio on, like, seeing if I can pick up any newscast or anything. And then one of my dad's friends drives up, and he's like, yeah, tells us, like, what was going on with him at the time that it happened, and how he also didn't have electricity, but big old tree limbs fell and hit his house and tore down his power line. Anyway, and he's like, within, you know, within a mile or two, well, within a couple of miles of where we live. So yeah, so I even made a comment to him. I'm like, was there a tornado that went through? He's like, I don't think so, but he's like, the damage at my house looks like it. I was like, whoa. So okay, I think I'm done with the silver. I've talked way too much already. Yeah, so let me just kind of do that. So there we are, like, what's going on. So they go out riding around to get food. Like, well, he said to my dad, hey, let's go see if we can find some food. So time passes. My dad comes back home and says that they rode all around South Nashville, and that from what they could tell, electricity was out everywhere around here. They went over to where I work, or yeah, where I work. Ooh, that's another thing we can talk about. But electricity was out over there, except there was one block kind of close to there that had electricity, but there was no, like, food places open. And so they went over to, like, Antioch up the street. Nothing, like, they got on the interstate, riding down. Couldn't find any, like, places with electricity with food. They said there looked like there were a few gas stations that probably had a backup generator that they were running off of. Like, there was a certain chain of gas stations that looked like they were open, but all the other gas stations were closed. So, alright, go to bed, no electricity. You know, at that point, like 4 in the afternoon, go to bed at like 2 a.m. Well, I went to bed a lot earlier than usual that night. I went to bed probably just right after midnight, because what can you do? Couldn't get on the internet, no electricity. It's dark. I had candles going, but yeah, anyway. So I think I just ate like a cold sandwich. And so, okay. So go to bed. Wake up the next morning. I had like the light on my room like switched on so that when the electricity comes back on I would know. Like, surprise. So I was just kind of like waiting all night long, just kind of like waiting for the lights to come back on. So fast forward like to like 6 something, almost 7 a.m. I'm like, okay, we're going nowhere. I'm like, okay, what's going on? What happened? So I get up and go out to my car and charge up my phone and listen to the radio, and they mentioned that there was one of the Nashville, like they were expecting it to be, like they were estimating it to be Nashville's biggest power outage. They said that there had been 130,000 residents or households without electricity. Like it wasn't just in, we thought it was just in South Nashville at that point, but found out it was widespread. It wasn't just South Nashville, it was all over Nashville. So that they said that there was just bad winds that came through. So, and it hit like all areas. Like they're saying that it was even as far down as Columbia, which is like 30 miles away from here, a little over 30 miles away from here. I think that's, my friend lives down in Columbia. I think she's just a little over 30 miles away from me. And then it was up north of here. It was like up in Hendersonville, which is like, again, it's basically like a 30-mile radius around Nashville that got hit by this storm or these winds. And so people in those areas were also experiencing power outages. But Nashville, like our NES, National Electric Service, like they had 130,000 households just in Nashville alone without electricity. And so that they said that at that point in time they had restored quite a bit, but there were still 98,000 households without electricity, which so it's like, okay, at least we've got some idea that it's just not us in the situation. So another one of my dad's friends picks him up. They go riding around. They go all the way to like other towns, like the 30-mile radius around here, and they go down to Nolensville, which is just south of Nashville. I mean, it's like you got Antioch, you got Nolensville, you got Brentwood, like all just kind of south and scattered. So they went down there. They went through Antioch. I think they went to Laverne, which again is just kind of southeast of here. Yeah, so basically they're riding around, checking out, trying to find, you know, basics. Like they're trying to find fast food. They're trying to find, like at this point, start like freaking out about the refrigerator situation, because we got like, okay, so the stuff in the refrigerator wasn't like a big deal. It wasn't a big loss. We didn't have a lot of food that really like we had to worry, like we had some sandwich stuff that we had to worry about, but that was it. But like the stuff in the freezer, like that's where all the big ticket money stuff is. Like our freezer was full of food, full of our pricey, like that was our good food up in the freezer. So that's what we started worrying about, like especially me. That's what kind of kept me up all night, like thinking about like, okay, come on, electricity, come back on so I don't have to worry about like food spoiling, especially in the freezer. Like we can't afford to lose all this food in the freezer. Which I found out, like food in the freezer, especially like because ours is so cram-packed, like it could probably hold up for like 2 days. They were estimating if you weren't like opening the door frequently. Just a side note. So anyway, so then it becomes like a priority for them to find ice. So they rode around and they eventually found ice for the freezer. So they get the ice, bring it back home, put it in the freezer, and then we got 2 bags of ice. So ultimately we decided to put 1 bag in the freezer because everything still seemed solid up there, and then we put 1 in the refrigerator just to kind of help, you know, preserve what we could, what we still had in there, since I had like some lunch meats in there and could make some sandwiches for the day. So yeah, so anyway, fast forward to the evening, still no sign, no updates, still no internet service on my freaking phone. I think it did update so that I could receive like 3 new emails on my Gmail that day. Whoop-de-doo, which I get 3 emails maybe once every couple of hours. So one time I got an update from my email, but it couldn't pull any, like it was saying that it was connected, saying that I had bars, but it wasn't like, it wasn't doing anything. It's like being on dial-up and then finally it just gives up and it's like, oh no, can't load. So I need to do a highlight color here. So I think I'm going to do this color right here up in the brow bone area, because I like a good frosty brow bone. Anywho, fast forward, Tuesday. Tuesday was kind of like a, okay, so Tuesday would have been my mom's birthday, so I was already just kind of like iffy, like not in the best mood, but then, like, I was thinking, okay, maybe we'll get electricity back this day. So Tuesday, I actually got up at like 6 something in the morning, like, okay, the night before I went to bed at like 11. It's like, I never go to bed that early anymore, but, so, around up at 6 a.m. trying to get updates, and again, all I could find, like, everybody in the world is talking, or they're talking about, okay, local news, like, you know how they have the morning talk shows. All they were talking about, oh, I got silver up there already. All they were talking about was, like, what's going on in the world with, like, the murder hornets. That's what I found out. That was the talk of local news, local radio news, with murder hornets. Now, I did hear the update about how, like, they had restored power for more NES customers, but there's still, I forgot how many, I think there's still like 50, no, there's still 48,000 of us who didn't have electricity at that point in time. I'm like, oh, right here, but still, like, no, don't know what's going on really around us other than the fact that there are murder hornets now in the US. So that's the only, like, other than there's still a power outage from the storm, and now we got murder hornets in addition to coronavirus. So that's, in my little bubble of the world, that's all I know. The 3 things: storm where we don't have electricity, coronavirus is still going on very much out there, and murder hornets are now in the US. So I'm like, what? I felt so freaking isolated from the world. You know, I'm one of those people who I can deal without being around other people, but when you have, like, my type, like, I don't have TV, I have very limited access to the radio at this point because I don't want to run my car battery down, or I probably wouldn't run my car battery down, but still, like, I'm burning gas, I'm sitting there, I'm just sitting in my driveway idle, and I don't want to get out driving around because with electricity out, traffic lights are out, and people don't know how to abide by the treat it like a 4-way stop rule. So, and which I heard that from the people my dad was hanging out with, like, riding around with, because he went out with, like, another friend again, I think. Or, it seemed like there was a 3rd friend that he went riding around with, and the report was the same, like, or maybe he went out with one of the other friends a second. Anyway, whatever. All I know is that people were not abiding by traffic laws, and every time I turn on the radio and hear a traffic update, there are all these wrecks, more so than, there's a lot of wrecks on any given day, but they just went through this long list, like, that was triple the length. Like, they just kept talking, and then finally it got to the point to where they just said, yeah, there's a lot of wrecks out in this one particular area, like, to the point to where they're not even listing the specifics anymore. They're just saying there's a lot of wrecks out in this area because of the traffic lights being out due to power outages. So just a heads up. So I was like, I ain't getting out driving into that mess, no way, especially when they're talking about trees being down on the road. I'm like, and then people being rerouted. So also on Tuesday, was it Tuesday? I think it was, yes, it was Tuesday. Okay, so later in the day, like afternoon, I kind of was like getting really antsy. Oh, back up. So Monday night, I figured, hey, I'm going to be resourceful. I'm starving. We got frozen food. What am I going to do? I'm going to figure out a way to cook this frozen food. So we were thinking, hey, we could use the grill. But Monday night, we had a second storm, which we knew that was going to happen, but still, it didn't help matters any. So I was like, So we could have put the grill on the front porch since it's covered, but you know how grills are. They have smoke come back, and I'm not cooking on that hot grill with the smoke coming back in my face the entire time. That's just too much for me, especially with allergy season, which I am surprised that I'm not choking up a lung right now, because I've been coughing nonstop to the point where I think my dad suspects I have coronavirus, but I'm pretty sure I don't. Anywho, I'm really time fast. So I devised a way to cook food based off of like something I remember saying before about making like a little heater for your house. So what I did was I took one of those like bread pan tins, you know, like what you bake bread in. I got 3 tea lights, lined the tea lights up inside of the bread tin, lit them all up, took the tray from my toaster oven, you know, the cooking tray from your toaster oven, decided to balance that on top. Then, this is what we used to do with our wood burning stove when the electricity went out, which, by the way, I was thinking, hey, we got a wood burning stove, but it was so hot, like, it had been like 80 that day. I think it was so like 80 on Tuesday. So it was like, it's too hot to crank up the wood burning stove, because I mean, it's bad enough. We're already suffering as is. So anyway, this is what I come up with. Because in the past, I've actually had to do this during power outages, where we have frozen chicken tenders, you know, like the microwavable kind, the good kind, not the little cheap, you know, ground up beefy kind, or meaty kind. But anyway, so we had those in the freezer. Like, we keep a stock of those because those are like some of our good food. So what I did was, like, I had to do this with 1 tender at a time. I had to cook it like each tender individually, but hey, it's okay, it's food. So at this point, like, you know, we still got the ice intact in the freezer, but everything is, the boxes and bags of stuff, just, you know, things aren't staying solid frozen. So they felt like they'd kind of like thawed out quite a bit. So anyhow, I took a bag that didn't have a whole lot left in it and decided this is going to be the bag I cook tonight. So wrap those tenders up with aluminum foil, place it on top of the little toaster oven tray, and balance that on top of the bread tin with the tea light candles, so that there's enough air to like vent down into the bread tin so that the candles won't snuff out. So that's how I cook dinner. And then I did a Tuesday with those frozen White Castle burgers too, because I was like, you know what, we're not like, at that Tuesday everything was just kind of like, uh-oh, like, but again, I found out that it was okay, like, we were fine with our food, even, it was all good. So anyhow, so that's how I cooked our supper those 2 nights. Anyway, so Tuesday, so we're thinking like, okay, Tuesday things are looking better, but no. But yeah, during the early afternoon, I noticed we started having a traffic jam up the street, because like down the street is a big substation where, you know, it powers, like, that's where all the big stuff is that powers like the neighborhood. So anyway, they were down there, they had crews, in which my thinking was, you know, every time there's a bad like issue going on around the US, like, Nashville crews are always sent off to those areas. Like when they had the fires in California, they sent a lot of crews from Nashville, like even the fire department. I mean, I'm not saying I'm expecting like people from California to come to us help us with this case, but anyway, but like when the Katrina happened, we sent crews down to Katrina. When they've had hurricanes and outages like in other states, we've sent people to other states and other cities, like around, like if they need help in Memphis, we've sent crews to Memphis, Knoxville, you know, where, Clarksville, wherever. So I was thinking, you know, it'd be really nice if they sent, like, if we have this problem here in Nashville, a big metropolitan area, and we're already having issues because of social distancing. They said they can only have, like, they were having problems getting power back on because they can only have 2 people in the truck at a time because of social distancing. And I'm like, you know, this would be a great time for people to come help us, please, please. Which they did. They did. So they had a lot of crews down the street repairing, or working on repairing, which they said, like, the biggest issue they encountered, like, despite everything else going on, was that there's a huge hackberry tree in the middle of everything, which they had to replace so much down, like, I think they had to pretty much replace everything down at that substation, from what it sounded like. So, of course, they had traffic closed down. Like, every time there's always traffic closures or road work going on down the street. So, of course, you know, on a normal day, there's traffic regardless because the interstate's down that way. So, it was just like a normal day. Like a normal day at traffic time. We had traffic just lined up all around the curb there. You know, it's just constant, you know, stop and go. Like, it would be stopped for so long, and they'd like let one lane come through and then let other lane. So they were working on it, and so I was like, okay, we're gonna get our electricity back sometime today. I'm like, it'll probably be later tonight, but that's perfectly fine. We're gonna get it back. So 6:45. We at this time we're on the front porch, just kind of, what else is there can't do? Still don't have it. Well, I think I started getting internet back that day. Like, my phone started picking up internet, but it wasn't like, it would load, like on Facebook it would load maybe 3 or 4 updates, and then it would just kind of poop out again. And all throughout the day that's how it was. So I never got like a consistent amount of updates, but I could kind of start seeing what was going on, that other people were suffering too. Everybody else was having problems with their electricity going off. But then this is, oh, Monday. Okay, somewhere Monday, maybe it's Tuesday. Anyway, at some point in time, I get an update saying from the neighborhood group, my neighborhood group on Facebook had posted that people had been in touch with NES, and they said it could be 1 to 2 weeks before power on our street is returning. And then I found out they were telling everybody that. So I was like, how are we going to do this for 1 to 2 weeks? Like, we're already struggling for 2 days. Like, how? Anyway, I'm thinking Tuesday, okay, we're gonna get our electricity back. 6:45. We had our porch light on, like, while we're sitting outside, just waiting for life to, you know, go on. So electricity comes back on, and the porch light, like, the lights light up. I'm like, oh my gosh, we got electricity, hallelujah. And so it was great. We came back in the house, turned on the TV. I was getting ready to crank up the microwave, and then like within 15 minutes they turned it off again. I'm like, great, wonderful. So I'm thinking, okay, well, they probably were just testing things during that 15 minutes, and you know what, I'm through with this eyeshadow palette. I still have it open. So let me just, okay, so that's the eyeshadow look right there. I was gonna do eyeliner, mascara, but at this point I'm like, forget it. I was just playing with the color anyway, but that's weird. Okay, so anywho, I'm thinking, okay, they're just testing things out. You know, they'll probably keep it out. We'll probably have it back on in another couple of hours. You know, no big deal. And so I go outside, and just I start noticing, like, the little street. Like, I live on a main street. Like, my street is a pretty main street. Like, it's not like one of the big streets in Nashville, but it's a pretty popular street in Nashville. Like, especially if you live in my area of Nashville, you probably know my street. So the little street, I noticed, like, the people who keep their outdoor lights on all the time, like on the outside of their houses, I noticed, like, those lights were lit up. And I'm like, huh. And then I started noticing that, like, at this point, you know, the sun's starting to set, or the sun has set, whatever. The lights up the street lights, they're starting to come on. And then they had a sign up kind of across the street, you know, warning about the traffic situation, like, hey, road work ahead, to let people know, like, hit your brakes, you're gonna be stopped. So then I noticed, like, one of those crew trucks come up and go and pick up the sign. And, like, and as I noticed that, like, I'm walking, like, down my yard and looking, like, seeing what's going on. I noticed that one of our neighbors, a few houses down, their outdoor light is on. I'm like, wait a minute. Then I start noticing that a house in the curb just on my street, they have like, we have a street light in our driveway, like actually in our driveway area. That's like an extra thing, like not everybody has that. So I noticed that their little driveway street light is on. I'm like, wait, they're just several houses down, their street light's on, nothing over here is on. And so I'm, like, noticing that as I'm standing in the yard and this guy's picking up the sign. I'm like, what the heck? So I figured that it was my house my neighbor next door to us, the court that runs down, and then the house at the other side across from my neighbor on the other side of the court, which I guess is also part of the court. There's probably, I think there's 11 of us total did not have electricity still. My battery will probably go out any moment now. Alright, so 11 of us out of how, like, I don't know what was going on with the other side, but I'm guessing I can't tell if my neighbor below us had electricity or not, but I know, and just based off of the street lights that were on the main road, like, the church across the street from us had electricity, but they're like on their own. I think they have like their own backup system, because whenever the electricity goes out, usually they have power regardless for the most part. So I was like, great. So there's just this little segment of our street, and so I'm able to get onto the NES website and pull up a power outage map and see that, like, oh yeah, specifically our little segment, like, we're in the red while everybody else is in the green. I'm like, hold up. I was like, I even tweeted them. I'm like, hey, like, letting them know what went on and where, like, the area I'm in. And I'm like, were we forgotten? Like, what's going on? Like, seriously, I specifically wrote, were we forgotten? And then, like, hours later, like, into the wee hours in the morning, I'm like, I guess at midnight, I'm like, yeah, I even put out my address, and my neighbors, like, hey, this is where we are. And I was like, I feel like we were forgotten. So, anyway, just after 4 a.m., hallelujah, electricity came back on, and it's been on ever since. So then I find out, I still do not fully know or understand what exactly happened, or what, I just feel like I was living just in my own, like, we were in our own little bubble, like, you talk about isolation right now with this whole coronavirus, like, I felt like we were truly in isolation. So, found out that it was something called a Derecho, I think that's how you say it. I just seen it, like, written out, like, apparently, like, by the time we got electricity back on, it's old news, and so I still don't, like, news crews weren't really talking about it much. They were still talking about, like, oh, there's still a few thousand of people without electricity, but I'm like, I don't fully understand it. But it was a straight line windstorm, and they say it's rare, from the little news articles that I could pick and gather from, that it was an extremely rare storm. And like I said, I still don't fully understand it, but I guess it's like a straight line tornado. That's how it felt, because there's so much damage. Like, so many people's being able to get online and look at it, the aftermath of, like, people we know on Facebook, like, so many people's trees were uprooted, like, really old trees were uprooted, and so a lot of people had damage from, like, trees and wind and tree damage. So, that's a lot of what a tornado does. Fortunately, again, I'm not going to compare the two. I'm not going to be like, well, this was worse or that was worse. But let's just rewind back. So this happened, May 3rd was the date that this happened. Rewind back. March 3rd was when the tornadoes hit Nashville. Now, my house was fortunate. Like, I think my neighbors, for the most part, we were all fortunate that we do not have any damage to our houses. And our land, as far as I can tell, there's still, like, one questionable area, which I can't figure out if the tree was already like that. We have a tree that's, like, angled like this, and I can't remember if it was like that to begin with, or if the storm made it like that, because I never really pay attention to it. But yeah, there's this tree like that. I know some of our neighbors kind of back behind us, like, they had, I guess, a tree fall, but I don't think anybody around here had house damage. But there's been other people I know or know of who had house damage from trees and debris and wind and all that. So I was like, man, like, we've never been that long without electricity. Like, I can't remember, like, back in that last video that I talked about, like, the storm and everything, the tornado, that video, I had originally talked about the ice storm that happened in, like, the early to mid 90s, but I can't remember if I edited that all out or not. But anyway, this, like, brings me back to that, because during that time, we lost electricity for maybe a day, but that was like the longest that I recall ever going without electricity. Like, we've had times where we've gone without electricity overnight and then it would come back on sometime in the early hours of the morning, but usually like 8 to 10 hours is like the longest, maybe 12 hours. I think there was one day where I'd been at work and found out that our electricity had been out for 12 hours, but usually it never exceeds. But this was like over 58 hours that we went without electricity. Like, we went nearly 2.5 days without any electricity. So that was quite the nightmare. Like, I'm like, we survived it, but it was not fun. It was miserable, and especially with, like, it did make it easier knowing that, like, it wasn't just us going through this. Like, this was like all of Nashville going through this for the most part. But holy heck, I was just like, and again, I'm still like, what went on in the world during that time other than killer hornets or murder hornets and, well, what we already know, coronavirus. But yeah, so, oh my gosh, it just went on for this. I initially, like, I knew I was going to talk about this, but I was like, I'm not going to go into all these extra details. But then, anywho, so that leads us back to tomorrow. The stay-at-home order for Nashville expires. So, like, all these, like, businesses are opening back up, which restaurants and several other businesses have already opened back up. But, like, retail is opening back up, but at 50% capacity. So when I found out, like, we found out a few days ago that the mayor was letting that expire, he wasn't going to renew it or anything, which I was like, this is, I mean, economically wise, it sounds great, but, realistically, I'm like, you really think this is going to be okay? So when he talked about letting that expire, then, like, shortly after that, I received an email that where I work, like, they sent out email to, like, the customers. So the email went out to all the customers, and it said something like, as of May 11th, some of our stores will reopen. And I was like, oh crud. So I was like, don't tell me my store is going to be reopening. So my manager sent out an email saying that, you know, store's going to be ready to open as soon as we're given the green light, you know. I was like, ugh. So I was saying, okay, tomorrow, which is now probably today, is going to be the day that Nashville says, hey, it's okay to open back up. But I think it's like 50% capacity, which I'm still, like, curious how they're going to actually go through with, like, how they're going to maintain and decide, how they're even going to decide that for our store. Anyway, so, store manager said he'd get back with us when he knew details, and right now, nobody's gotten back to me about details, so I'm like, I'm guessing my store is not opening tomorrow. Yay! But, I don't want to go back to work. I'll just say that right now. I don't want to go back to work. I really don't want to go back to work, especially, like, since this is still an active situation going on here with the virus. But I hope I didn't miss out on a text, because I'm not going to be there. If I'm supposed to be there, nobody has told me that I'm supposed to be there and what time and what's the situation. So I right now I don't know when I'm going back to work. Hopefully they'll decide to keep our store shut, but I'd be really surprised if they did decide to keep our store shut, especially given the way my company is. They're greedy. But yeah, so I'm kind of scared for the future right now. Yeah, I think I'm, which year? Anywho, that's all I'm going to talk about for now, because I've been talking for close to an hour, so we're just going to zip it right there. There's so much more I could talk about, but I'm not. So anyway, I hope y'all are doing well, and there'll be more videos soon, I'm sure. I plan on getting a MacBook Pro. I've decided that's what I want to do. I've decided on what I want. I'm just kind of like waiting. I'm waiting, and I'll talk more about that another time. Anywho, so again, for those who celebrated Mother's Day, I hope y'all had a wonderful Mother's Day. And again, I hope everybody's doing well, staying safe. You know, just be smart. Just be smart. That's all there is to it. And we'll talk again soon, I'm sure.